Okay, continuing with Symbaroum core rulebook. This will be part 3, and hopefully we'll finish this up. Let's see, we want to start with, we finished off with abilities. Let's go to mystical traditions. It is widely accepted that the world does not only consist of matter, and it is obvious to everyone that there are individuals who can manipulate the flows of both material and non-material energies. The use of mystical powers is in no way commonplace, not in Ambria nor among the barbarians, but is common enough for many cultures to have formed traditions around it. Okay. Player characters need not belong to or practice any of the traditions to be able to use mystical powers. Mystics without connections to a tradition are often called untamed and are considered dangerous by their traditionally trained colleagues. Schooled mystics sometimes perceive the independent ones as no better than sorcerers, but mostly regard them as their less fortunate and less successful cousins. Theurgy is nowadays understood as the teachings of the mystical force that radiates from the sun and which burns at the heart of the human spirit. Its powers are only found among the most loyal worshippers of the light, the chosen champions of Prios. The Theurges are considered to be the emissaries of Prios in the world of the living, and their burden is truly a great one. They lead the faithful in prayer, thereby guiding the sun through the darkness of the underworld each night. And their passion keeps the heavenly light from fading. Without their strenuous work, the ailing sun god would surely die, and the world would plunge into the eternal night. Theurgy is an ancient tradition, first developed by the priesthood devoted to the old gods. It is disputed among scholars and the learned whether witchcraft is older than theurgy or if it is the other way around. Either way, the golden age of theurgy is now. Okay, so here's some of the spells you get with theurgy, like Blessed Shield, Holy Aura, and here, well, this is cleric-like stuff. It has rituals. There's corruption, of course. There's sorcery. That's be more like your magic user. Sorcery is a mystical tradition that compromises powers and rituals fueled by corruption and taint, whose usage provides power in the short run but corrodes the mystic body and soul in the long run. Theurge, active among the Twilight Friars, gather rituals of sorcery as well as blight-stricken artifacts in an attempt to understand the new dark enemy within the monastery and the Titans. It is said that the Black Cloaks had dark vaults, oozing with corruptive energies and echoing with lamentations of poor, tainted souls kept there for study. And they, like all the others, they have power, ritual, corruption. The witchcraft has your powers, your spells that you can throw, your ritual spells, and corruption. And there's wizardry. So I think wizardry is supposed to be more like maybe kind of like a druid, but they have spells that are more like they're similar to a magic user. Spells like Confusion, Flame Wall, but then the power of the wizardry comes from dissonant studies into the fundamental laws of nature. and from insights regarding how these laws can be used and controlled by sheer will and reason. Wizardry grew out of the early form of theurgy. Sorcery. The legends are teeming with sorcerers, mystics, who draw their power from musty wellsprings or gain their corrupt gifts from the creatures of evil. It is hard to find them in the real world, but those who know how to read shadows can sense their presence. And they have things like Binwheel Curse. So, it seems like the sorcery is more like evil magic and the wizardry is good magic. Maybe say it was more like a druid was wrong. And then the independent mystics, self-taught. Mystical powers. Looks like he's summoning some kind of great demon. So here are the spells. They're in alphabetical order. So here's a list here of spells and whose tradition they are. So that way you don't get permanent corruption if you learn and use spells from your tradition. There's another chart for these spells. I think it's in the advanced player's book. And then here are the rituals, the list, and whose they are, whose school they are. And let's see. Okay. Let's look at the equipment real quick. The equipment's real standard, just like in Dungeons and Dragons or any game. But weapons have different effects. And let's see. We'll look at the combat too. So we have heavy weapons. The weapon has a quality. If you get a two-handed bastard sword, it has precise quality. A double axe has a deep impact quality, and a heavy flail has a jointed quality. And that was kind of different from a lot of other games with these. Okay, and then you've got your armor, and your armor like a blessed robe or an older cloak or something, like a heavy cloak. You see, you roll for the damage every time, how much damage it's going to reduce. And then, every time you hit the impending -2, that's how much it takes away from your defense. Okay, so here we go. Here's about the qualities of the weapons. Flexible. These are qualities of weapons armor. Armor has qualities too. The armor is unusually flexible and is less impeding. A flexible light armor has no penalty at all on defense test. Sneaking and the use of mystic powers. A flexible medium armor has a -1 penalty, and a flexible heavy armor a -2. A flexible shield can be strapped to the arm ready to use, while at the same time allowing the bearer to use both hands for wielding a long or heavy weapon. Even ranged weapons can be used without problem together with a flexible shield. So, okay. So, robes are flexible. Order cloaks are flexible. Witch gowns are flexible. Woven silk. Okay. And lacquered silk cuirass is flexible. Full plate is flexible. I don't get that. So there's one kind of heavy armor on this sheet, full plate, which should be -4, but since it's flexible, it's -2 actually to your defense. So let's see. That's interesting. I'm gonna look more into that. Balanced. A balanced weapon is so well balanced that it's extra effective when parrying. The weapon provides +1 defense. Okay. A blunt weapon. It lacks cutting or piercing abilities and therefore uses 1 effect die lower than other weapons of its kind. The quarterstaff, a long weapon with blunt quality, deals 1 die 6 damage instead of 1 die 8, which is the usual damage for long weapons. Okay. But you don't get any kind of crushing effect. It only just takes damage away. Cumbersome. It is difficult to move around in this armor, and its impeding effect is therefore 1 point higher than usual. A cumbersome light armor has a penalty of -3, medium of -4, and a heavy of -5. I guess you could get cumbersome plate mail. Deep impact. The weapon has qualities that makes it even more deadly. Maybe its blade can pierce armor more easily, or the weapon itself is so massive that it gets extra crushing power. Either way, the weapon deals +1 extra damage. Impeding. This is for armor. Hampers agile movements and gives a penalty to test against defense, sneaking, and the use of mystic powers. The penalty depends on whether the armor is light, -2, medium -3, or heavy -4. Jointed. The weapon is joining, letting the head of the weapon strike past or around blocking weapons or shields, making it harder to parry. The length of the chain also makes the attacks difficult to evade, even if a parry is successful. The attack hits if the die lands on an odd number. in which case the weapon deals 1d6 damage. This secondary damage is not affected by any abilities. It remains 1d6 regardless of the attacker's other abilities. Okay. So you have a chance to do an extra 1d6 of damage. Okay. Long. The weapon has the advantage of superior length and reach, giving the wielder one free attack each turn against an opponent that comes into range of melee combat, as long as said opponent is not also armed with a long weapon. Precise. The weapon is designed to be easy to wield and therefore gives +1 to attack test. Okay. Short. The weapon can be drawn as a free action and can be used with the feint ability. Okay, so this stuff you can buy: alchemical elixirs, poisons. And then here we have standard equipment: lanterns, lockpicks, bandages. Here you got horses, chests, things like that. Farm animals, blah, blah, blah. Here's your clothing. What great art. Okay, turn order. The character with the highest quick can choose to either act first or to wait. Once the order is established, it cannot be changed. So if you wait and act in a later melee round, then you just keep, that's your turn throughout the whole thing. I got it. Okay. If two persons have the same quick value, then compare vigilant. If they still the same value, roll 1d20. Okay. When combat starts, it's important to know whether the combatants have their weapons drawn or not. Also remember that long weapons get a free attack against one enemy during the first turn of melee combat, provided that enemy does not have a long weapon at all. Surprise requires a successful discreet versus vigilant test to surprise someone. If a group tries to surprise another group instead of individuals against individual, use the attacker's lowest discreet modified by the defender's highest vigilant. Okay. So it's got these little notes in the middle. You can perform a combat action such as attacking. Perform a movement action such as moving 10 paces, drawing a weapon, reloading a weapon, or using an item or elixir. Oh, and your combat action here can be replaced with an additional movement action. You can perform an unlimited amount of reactions, such as defending yourself or performing your free attacks. You can perform unlimited amount of free actions, such as giving an order or calling out a warning. Standing up from lying on the ground costs a whole turn 2 movement actions, or 1 movement action if the character succeeds the quick test. So if you had your weapon drawn, you could jump up and strike someone. Okay, defense. This is what I was talking about before. You are allowed to attempt to defend yourself against any attacks that your character is aware of. The character's defense is usually based on quick, then modified by such thing as armor qualities and whether or not the character carries a shield. When a character is attacked, defense is tested as defense versus accurate. If the test is successful, the character has avoided the attack by either parrying or dodging it. If this test fails, the attack hits and deals damage if the weapon's damage value is higher than the outcome of the roll for the character's armor. Damage lowers your toughness, sets your hit points, and the creature dies when toughness reaches zeros. Unless it is a player character, in which case he or she is regarded as dying instead. Damage and wounds can be healed in a number of ways, described in this section. So toughness and hit points. Pain threshold. Character's pain threshold is half of its strong value, rounded up. The actual strong value is used to calculate this figure, even if it is lower than 10. When a creature suffers damage that exceeds its pain threshold from a single attack, and after armor has been subtracted from the damage value, one of the following things happens. The affected creature is knocked down and has to get up. The one who deals the damage is allowed to perform an immediate free attack against the creature. Okay, and the character gets to decide which of those happens. Dying characters. Monster and non-player characters die as soon as their toughness reaches 0. Unless the game master wants something else to happen. In any case, the rules for player characters are different. When a character reaches 0 toughness, it collapses and is considered to be dying. At this point, it cannot help itself in any way. Each turn thereafter, the player is forced to make a death test with 1 die 20 on the character's initiative. The test is repeated until someone else either stabilizes the dying character with an herbal cure, the medicus ability, or mystical healing. Any player rolls a 1 and wakes up, or a 20 and dies. Okay, here it has lists of like special actions that you can use. Alright, and yeah, that's a little quick guide for combat here. That's nice. That's just like a player character there, reading something. Okay, so the next section is Game Master. We're not going to really go over that. We're going to go over the add